What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing, the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. I would like to introduce to you my third greatest boxer in boxing history. He was known as the Harlem Nightstick, Harlem Jitterbug. Those who knew him well called him Smitty. He was also known as the Tap Dance Kid. You knew him as the Great Sugar Ray Robinson, but his birth was Walker Smith. Born May 3rd, 1921 in Allen, Georgia. Died April 12, 1989 in Harlem, New York. He would walk through the streets of Detroit, Michigan. Stood 6 foot, weighed 118 to 165 pounds, and he was managed by George Gainsford, as well as Kurt Horman. But he was managed by the great Harry Wiley Sr. Had other men in his corner, such as Pee Wee Beale. I had the pleasure of meeting Sugar Ray Robinson on 2 separate occasions. In our first meeting, we spoke over an hour. And his memory was clear as a bell. And you can imagine, it would be like a kid in a candy store. Had questions for Ray Robinson. He had answers. He would discuss with me his amateur days, his professional days, his championship days. And he would even discuss with me the days that he would train, the days that he would spar, the days that he would run at 5 in the morning in Greenwood Lake. But he told me that Harry Wiley Sr. was like a father figure to him. Harry Wiley Sr. had worked as a water boy for Kid Blackie, Manasseh Moeller, better known as Jack Dempsey. Dempsey would become the heavyweight champion between July 4th, 1919, Toledo, Ohio. He was stopped the world heavyweight champion at that time. His name was Jess Willard. He would lose the title to the Fighting Marine Gene Tunney, September 23rd, 1926. Fought him again September 22nd, 1927, in Chicago's stadium. It was known as Soldier Field. And Harry Wiley Sr. would wrap the hands of Joe Jeanette and Sam Langford and Harry Wills and many, many greats during his day. He would be in charge of the 1932 Olympic team, only to be fired for standing up for what he believed in. The fighters who were black on that team were not being treated fairly. They were wearing leftover equipment, eating canned food, and had 1 or 2 meals per day. And like a warrior, and like a good citizen, Harry Wiley Sr. stood up for his men. But that wasn't good enough for the establishment. As an amateur, Ray Robinson would have a record of 85 total bouts, 69 knockouts, and 40 knockouts in the very first round. As a bantamweight, he fought between 1935 and 1938. He would win the AAU Metropolitan Finals against Ed Capelli. As a featherweight, he fought between 1938 and 1939. He would win the New York Golden Gloves, defeating Louis Spider Valentine in the finals. As a lightweight, between 1940 and 1941, he would showcase himself in New York's Madison Square Garden in the Golden Gloves, defeating Andy Nanelli. Andy Nanelli fought him once again in Chicago and defeated him in the finals. As a professional, he had a record of 202 total bouts, 109 knockouts, 19 losses, and he would be stopped 1 time due to heat exhaustion. He'd be in the ring in 1952 at the Polo Ground, Yankee Stadium against Joey Maxim. I don't know why I'm thinking of Randy Turpin. But as a welterweight, he fought between 1942 and 1950 against fighters such as Sammy Angot and Maxie Shapiro, Marty Servo and Fizzy Zivic, Maxie Berger, Jackie Wilson, Ralph Zanelli, and Henry Armstrong, Izzy Genazzo, and Kid Gavilan, just to name a few. He would face Sammy Angot as a lightweight and fought him again as a welterweight. As a middleweight, he fought between 1951 and 1965 for fighters such as Randy Turpin, Gene Foreman, Carmen Basilio, and Rocky Graziano, Carl Bobo Olsen, and Paul Pender, Danny Moyer, and Terry Downs. Joey Giardello. He would take on Jake LaMotta February 14, 1951 at Chicago Stadium, becoming the world middleweight champion. He was the 5th black fighter to accomplish that feat. Now, Actually, no. Thinking of him as a welterweight. As a middleweight, he would be the third black fighter to accomplish that feat. The first one was Theodore Tiger Flowers. The second one was William Gorilla Jones. And the third one was Ray Robinson. I want to make this correction now. As a welterweight, he was the fifth fighter to win that title. First one was the Barbados Demon Joe Walcott. The second one was Dixie Kidd. The third one was young Jack Thompson. The fourth one was Henry Armstrong. And the fifth one was Ray Robinson. Just want to set the record straight. Ray Robinson has sparred with the likes of Billy Graham and Willie Pep and Sandy Sadler. As a heavyweight, he was sparred with Danny Cox and Turkey Thompson, Harry Bobo. He was out of Cleveland. Spank Johnson, Big Boy Brown, Eddie Blunt, Joe Louis Barrow, George Finch, Wallace Cross, who was from Orange, New Jersey, Perk Daniels out of Chicago, J.D. Turner. He was out of Dallas, Texas, but he spent a short time in New York. As a middleweight, he was sparred with fighters such as Joe Blackwood, Holman Williams, Ezard Charles, Charlie Green, Alan Faulkner out of Buffalo, Freddie Flores, Larry Fontaine, Ozzie Bulldog Harris, and Shorty Hughes, Kid Tornaro of Cuba, just to name a few. As a welterweight, he was sparred with fighters such as Herbert Lewis Hardwood and Johnny Green, Tony Pallone out of New York. He used to walk with a limp. He was a number runner for the mob. Willis Johnson, Melvin Johnson. He was out of New Orleans. Willis Johnson was out of New York. As a lightweight, Bobby Henderson out of New York, and Freddie Herman, and Willie Jackson, just to name a few. Ray would win the welterweight championship title at the age of 26, the legendary New York's Madison Square Garden against Youngstown, Ohio's, ranked number 7, and they brought him down from 7 to number 3 because there were fighters that didn't want to face Ray Robinson in 1946. Fighters such as Bo Jack and Tippy Larkin. Tommy Bell had a record of 39 wins, 10 losses, and 3 draws when he walked into the ring that evening. And he would fight fighters such as Frizzy Zivic, who he would defeat, June 26, 1944, Forbes Field, Pennsylvania. Jacob LaMotta, July 6, 1945, 61st professional bout. Kid Gavilan, April 26, 1948, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ray Robinson was something else. Tommy Bell, 23 years old, stood 5 foot 7 inches. He was a welterweight, son of a sharecropper. And he was very underrated. Had a brother by the name of Bobby Bell. On the night of December 20th, 1946, New York's Madison Square Garden, he was decked. And he got up. And he would drop Ray Robinson. And when Ray Robinson was staggered and went to one knee, you couldn't hear a rat pick on cotton. The entire arena stood up. There was in a frenzy. They couldn't believe what they saw. It was as if Ray Robinson had turned the lights off at the Garden. It was as though Mike Tyson was dropped by James Buster Douglas in 1990. 15,670 spectators, hard-working fight fans, had invested $82,948 to watch that contest. And Ray Robinson would be a master when he got up off of one knee. Head feints, foot feints. He would jab. He would move from side to side until he cleared his head, and he would open up with combinations on Tommy Bell. What a remarkable comeback of Ray Robinson. Now, both Ray Robinson and Tommy Bell would fight for the vacant welterweight championship crown. The title holder was Marty Servo. Ray Robinson would defeat Marty Servo twice. But then he was supposed to fight him for the third time, this time for the title. Marty Servo did not want to face Ray Robinson. He knew he would lose. He had faced Rocky Graziano out of Brooklyn, New York. And he had somewhat of a busted nose, so he decided to hang up the gloves. He did not want to fight Ray Robinson. Marty Servo was a cousin of Lou Ambers, the Hickmaya Hurricane. Marty Servo, which is a very interesting individual. He lived in Elizabeth, New Jersey, the next block over from Mickey Walker. Marty Servo became the champion, defeating Freddie Red Cochrane. Cochrane stood 5'7.5". Cochrane was something else himself. The promoter Mike Jacobs had first offered former world lightweight champion Sidney Walker Bojack and Jersey's lightweight Tippy Larkin the opportunity to face 5-1 favorite Ray Robinson, and they both turned it down. So Tommy Bell would get the opportunity. Ray Robinson, pro lightweight division, went between October 4th, 1940 and July 21st, 1941. At 25 lightweight bouts. October 4th, 1940, Ray Robinson's professional debut, New York's Madison Square Garden, under the card of Henry Armstrong and Fizzy Zivic. It was a World Welterweight Championship showdown. Henry Armstrong's historic 20th World Welterweight Championship bout. Ray Robinson had met Puerto Rican's lightweight, Jose Escoveria. Henry Armstrong would wind up leaving that garden 19-0. 19-0 as a welterweight champion. The record till this day have not been broken. Ray defeated Silent Stafford, Bobby Woods, Norman Cortez, Oliver White. He would take on fighters such as Gene Spencer and Jimmy Vogue twice, Charlie Burns and Victor Torres, Mike Evans and Pete Lilo. Sammy Aingard, July 21st, 1941, Shire Park, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 10-round unanimous decision. 21st professional bout. For the 15,000 spectators. For the National Boxing Association Lightweight Championship contest, Ray Robinson drops Aingard for a 9 count. It was scheduled for 10. Before that contest, the bout was built up as a lightweight championship bout. It was to get tickets sold, because in 1940, Ray Robinson's professional debut would help to sell tickets, because Fizzy Zivic was considered the 500 mark. At the end of his career, he would lose 65 bouts. And they didn't sell the tickets like they thought they would. They thought that Henry Armstrong would wash Fizzy Zivic. So they called in Ray Robinson earlier than he anticipated to start his professional debut, because they knew he sold tickets and he sold out the garden. So Ray Robinson accepted an offer to face Sammy Aingard, thinking he would get a shot at the lightweight championship title. But he was fooled, because Aingard would come in weighing 136.5 pounds, and he convinced Ray Robinson to do the same. Ray Robinson was not going to get a title shot. It was all a facade. Ray Robinson knew then and there what his worth was, and he never allowed anyone to play games with him again. Sammy Aingard, Salvatore Ngati, he was known as the Clutch or the Louisville Slugger, born January 17, 1915 in Washington, Pennsylvania. Died October 22, 1940. He was 65 years of age at the time of his arrest, and he would reside in Cleveland, Ohio. Had a total bout career of 131 bouts, 94 wins, 23 knockouts, 29 losses, and 8 draws. He won a Kentucky State lightweight crown from Wissy Jones, the vacant NBA lightweight championship crown from Davey Day, December 8, 1939. He won a New York SAC lightweight championship title from Lou Jenkins, December 19, 1941, and the vacant NBA lightweight championship crown from Luther Slugger White, October 27, 1943. Ray Robinson's welterweight professional debut. Between August 27, 1941 and August 9, 1950, 92 welterweight bouts. Defeated Marty Servo, 10 rounds, September 25, 1941. Defeated Fizzy Zivic, 10 rounds, October 31, 1941, New York's Madison Square Garden. Defeated Frizzy Zivic once again, 10 rounds, January 16th to 42, New York's Madison Square Garden. Defeated Maxie Berger, 10 rounds, February 20th of 1942, New York's Madison Square Garden. Defeated Norman Rubio, 10 rounds, March 20th, 1942 in Madison Square Garden. Defeated Marty Servo, 10 rounds, May 28th, 1942, New York's Madison Square Garden. Unanimous decision. Defeated Sammy Angot, July 31st, 1942, in New York's Madison Square Garden. Robinson defeated Frizzy Zivic, 10 rounds, New York's Madison Square Garden, October 31st of 1941. He was 21 years of age, weighed 139 pounds. He was a 7-5 betting favorite in front of 20,551 spectators. Ray Robinson was a fantastic fighter in every conceivable way. He defeated Frizzy Zivic 10 rounds in New York's Madison Square Garden, January 16th of 1942, 22 years of age, weighed 142 pounds. The referee was Arthur Donovan. He awarded Robinson with a 10-round decision in front of 15,476 spectators. Zivic was dropped once in the 9th round, once in the 10th round. Ray wins 2 for 2 with Frizzy Zivic, avenging his idol, Henry Armstrong's losses. Robinson defeats, I should say, Marty Servo 10 rounds at the Convention Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in front of 11,000 spectators. They invested $16,110. The referee was Irvin Clutcher. He awarded Ray Robinson a 10-round victory. Robinson weighed 141 pounds, and Marty Servo weighed 140 pounds. May 28, 1942, New York's Madison Square Garden. Now, Ray Robinson defeats Marty Servo 10-round decision. 13,673 spectators are paid $31,870 to watch referee Billy Kavanaugh take the second round away from Marty Servo for low blows. 5'7", Marty Servo weighed 143 pounds. 6-foot Ray Robinson weighed 144 pounds. Side note, 1946, the world welterweight champion, Marty Servo, will retire from the ring because he did not want to face Ray Robinson. He had somewhat of a fractured nose facing Rocky Graziano. March 29, 1946, New York's Madison Square Garden. There was a second-round stoppage. Marty Servo had won the welterweight championship crown, defeating Freddie Red Cochrane February 1st, 1946, in New York's Madison Square Garden. He was stopped in 4 rounds. And Freddie Red Cochrane denied Ray Robinson the opportunity. Otherwise, Ray Robinson would have been champion in 1941. And I believe at that point he would have given members of the Black Murderers Row opportunities. Ray Robinson would become the world welterweight champion December 20th of 1942, defeating Tommy Bell, New York's Madison Square Garden. There were 2 Harlem sensations, Ray Robinson and Harry Smith, the Harlem Thunderbolt. Harry Smith would win the colored middleweight championship title in 1929, when he would take on Jack McVeigh. And Ray Robinson would take the welterweight championship title. It was vacant from Tommy Bell, December 20th of 1946. He would be the 5th black world welterweight champion, behind Joe Walcott, Dixie Kid, Young Jack Thompson, Henry Armstrong, and of course the Ray Robinson was some fighter. Robinson would defeat the Cuban Hawk, Kid Gavilan, 15 rounds, July 11th, 1949, Philadelphia Municipal Stadium in front of 27,805 spectators. It was Ray Robinson's 99th professional bout. It was his 3rd welterweight championship title defense. What a fighter was Ray Robinson. Now, when you look at Ray Robinson and you look at some of the other great welterweights before him, Ray Robinson brought something new to the game. He brought charisma, and he brought phenomenal skill set. One of the biggest assets you need to have, especially as a boxer, is footwork. You have to have an IQ in your feet alone. The feet have to know what to do on its own. Movement. If you can get your man to move faster than what he's accustomed to his left, to his right, to his front, quasi-left, quasi-right, jab, step back, move sideways, F-stop, move to the side. Constant movement, Faster. Slow it down. Faster. You have to operate the heart rate of your opponent. He only has 1 minute in the corner for rest. The last 30 seconds, you must make him move consistently. And that will delete the time he has to recover in the corner. But when you make him move, you have to make him move in a direction he is uncomfortable moving. Up and down with the jab. Double up, then triple up. And slow down his heart rate. That's how you beat a boxer. And understood that was Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson's middleweight professional career. Between 1950 and 1965, he would take on Carl Bubba Olson, who was born July 11, 1928 in Honolulu, Hawaii. He died January 16, 2002. He was 73 years of age at the time of his arrest. I met Carl Bubba Olson. He stood 5'10.5", weighed 160 pounds, had a record of 115 total bouts, 97 wins, 47 knockouts, 16 losses, and 2 draws. He was in the ring with Antar Reddick and Milo Savage, Earl Turner, Don Lee, Davey Sands, who was out of Australia, and Tommy Harrison, Sugar Ray Robinson, Walter Carrier, Gene Hairston, and Norman Hayes, Garth Panther, Patty Young. Patty Young fought Carl Bubba Olson for the America's Middleweight Championship title. It was for the World Vacant Middleweight Championship crown. They had to unify the America's Middleweight Championship title with the European Middleweight Championship title. And who had the European title was Randy Turpin. And Randy Turpin would meet Carl Bubba Olson. And Carl Bubba Olson would defeat Randy Turpin. And Carl Bubba Olson would now become the middleweight champion of the world. Ray Robinson would take on Robert Villame. He was a Pennsylvania State middleweight contender. And Ray Robinson would defeat Villame for the Pennsylvania State middleweight contender. He fought in Philadelphia. Randy Turpin was a former world middleweight champion and a former European middleweight champion. In fact, Randy Turpin was the first European black fighter to become a champion. His brother was the first black fighter to win a title. And this was after Lynn Johnson would get on the board, the Boxing British Board of Control Board, and he would set the record straight, end Rule 24, and give black fighters opportunities for titles. Also would take on Randy Turpin for the vacant World Middleweight Championship title. Kid Gavilan was the former World Welterweight Championship title holder. He had Jesse Turner, Pedro Gonzalez, Rocky Castellani, and Archie Moore. Joey Maxim, Don Fulmer, Jesse Baldry, and Sugar Ray Robinson. Those would be the opponents of Carl Bubba Olson. Just giving you some credentials of some of his opponents. Jacob LaMotta fought from 1941 to 1951. Fought Ray Robinson 6 times. Jake LaMotta was in the ring with Frizzy Zivic and Ray Robinson, Marcel Sedan, and George Sugar Costner, Ozzie Bulldog Harris, and Paul Gonzalez. Bob Satterfield, Frizzy Zivic, Tommy Bell, Sugar Ray Robinson, Marcel Sedan, Holman Williams. October 2nd, 1942, 1945, Ray Robinson, who stood 5'7.5" or 3/4 inches, I should say, Jacob LaMotta. And Jake LaMotta, in my opinion, was a 1940s fighter, although he turned his professional debut in 1941, but he got his license in 1940. And why Ray Robinson is so special was because he's the only fighter of the 5 men who were turned professional in 1940 who were amateur champions: Ike Williams, Willie Pep, Ezra Charles, Jimmy Bivens. Well, Jimmy Bivens turned professional in 1940, but he wasn't a world champion. Ike Williams was, Ray Robinson was, and Jake LaMotta was. Jake LaMotta would win the 1939 Diamond Gloves in the light heavyweight division. Ray Robinson would win the 1939 featherweight championship title in the Golden Gloves division. And these 2 men would meet as a professional. February 5th, 1943, 160.5 pounds was Jacob LaMotta, 144.5 pounds was Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson would lose the bout. 40 professional fight, 10 rounds. Jake LaMotta would face him at the Olympia Stadium in Detroit, Michigan. And the referee was Sam Hennessy. He awarded the Bronx Bull Jacob LaMotta the victory over Ray Robinson, who was a 3-1 favorite. It was in front of 18,930 shocked spectators. February 26th of 1943, 145-pound Ray Robinson would this time dominate 163 3/4 pounds Jacob LaMotta. February 23rd, 1945, 148.5 pounds Ray Robinson would take on 148 1/4 pounds Jacob LaMotta. September 26, 1945, 150-pound Ray Robinson would take on 159-pound Jacob LaMotta in front of 14,555 spectators. They packed Comiskey Park in Chicago, net gate of 74,331 spectators had paid that amount of money. That was incredible in 1945. Referee was Johnny Reyes. February 14th of 51, 155.5 pounds Ray Robinson weighed his highest weight during that time against 160-pound Jake LaMotta. Ray Robinson knew he had to increase his weight and his strength to take on Jake LaMotta as a middleweight. And Ray Robinson would become the fifth black welterweight and the third black middleweight champion in boxing history, behind Theodore Tiger Flowers and William Gorilla Jones. The boxing audience of 14,802 spectators would witness history in front of their very eyes. Collectively, they would pay $20,840 to see Ray Robinson defeat Jacob LaMotta. Fascinating. I just wanted to give a brief description of Ray Robinson, just remembering this at the top of the head. But Ray Robinson was very special. He could do it all. I mentioned to you in a Sam Langford video that Ray Robinson was pound for pound because of everything that he can do in the ring with all comers. He was a thinker in the ring. He was a thinker outside the ring. He knew when to fight certain fighters and not to get caught up in certain situations, if you will. When he made a comeback after 1952, and he would finally make a comeback in 55, he had to deal with the IBC. And that's when he started doing what they asked him to do. And he would win one fight with Gene Foreman and lose one fight. He would win one fight with Carmen Basilio and lose one fight. But he was robbed and he was promised, but he was robbed by Paul Pender in Boston because he wasn't supposed to take that fight. He was supposed to take on Gene Foreman. Gene Foreman wound up facing Carmen Basilio. And he knocked out Basilio twice. It's the only time Basilio ever been off his feet. Ray Robinson would take on Gene Foreman. Foreman fought Rocky Castellani, Ralph Tiger Jones, Charlie Hums, Ray Robinson, Spider Webb, Milo Savage, Gil Turner, Del Flanagan, Chico Vijar, Wilfie Greaves, Joey Maselli, Joe Giardello. Just trying to think of these fighters. Gene Foreman would take on Ray Robinson. And like I said, they were split victories because of the IBC. He would take on Carmen Basilio. Carmen Basilio was the World Boxing Hall of Fame and the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1982 and 1990. I actually met Carmen Basilio. I met Gene Foreman. I met Carl Bobo Olsen. I met Ray Robinson. You name them, I met him. Henry Armstrong. But Carmen Basilio took on Chuck Davey and Al Andrews, Don Fulmer, Tony DeMarco, Gil Turner, Pierre Langlois, Billy Graham, Ray Robinson, Johnny Saxton, Peter Mueller. I'm trying to think of these fighters. Carmen Basilio, he stood 5'6.5" weighed 144 to 157 pounds. He was born April 2nd, 1927 in Canastota, New York. Died November 7th, 2012, Rochester, New York. He was 85 years of age at the time of his arrest. He had a record of 79 total bouts, 56 wins, 27 knockouts, 16 losses, and 7 draws. He was managed and trained at that time by Angelo Dundee as well. He had a manager. I can't think of his name right now. They were brothers up in Syracuse. They used to play the horses all the time. But they were with the mob. They were all mobsters. And Carmen Basilio became the world welterweight champion 2 minutes and 55 seconds of the 12th round, June 10th, 1955, at the War Memorial Auditorium in Syracuse, New York, defeating Boston's bomber. They called him the Tony DeMarco pressing machine. It It was in front of a crowd that was packed at that stadium. It was for the NBA Ring Magazine and New York SAC Middleweight Championship title. It was 63rd professional bout, Carmen Basilio's. And after defeating Tony DeMarco on November 30th at 55 in his 66th professional bout, he rematched him at the Boston Garden, stopping him 2 minutes and 58 seconds of the same round, the 12th round. Incredible. Basilio would lose his NBA Ring Magazine and New York SAC World Welterweight Championship title to Johnny Saxton of Newark, New Jersey, March 14, 1956, 15 rounds at Chicago Stadium. Basilio would win the rematch against Saxton in 9 rounds at the War Memorial Auditorium in Syracuse, New York, September 12, 1957. Carmen Basilio, 71st professional bout, September 23, 1957, 15 rounds over Harlem's Jitterbug, Sugar Ray Robinson. He would win the NBA and the Ring New York SAC World Middleweight Championship title. Basilio weighed 154 pounds and Robinson weighed 160 pounds. It was in front of 38,027 spectators. Robinson would earn $483,000, and Carmen Basilio weighed $211,000. He would earn that purse. And Ray Robinson would have some money taken away from Basilio's purse, and Basilio never had any respect for Ray Robinson after that again. What Basilio didn't understand was Ray Robinson, along with other black fighters, was robbed all the time of their money. And Ray Robinson wasn't a privileged person. I didn't say fighter. He wasn't a privileged person. And he had to earn everything he got, and he was robbed plenty of times early in his career, and he said it would never happen again. He became the toughest negotiator, and that's the reason why he didn't fight certain fighters, because they didn't bring anything to the table. Sometimes high risk, low reward is not where you want to go in your career. So that's my 3rd greatest fighter in boxing history. I'll be expressing my 4th greatest fighter to you, but I'll probably jump up to my 10th. I want to get to the 10th greatest fighter. It's very important, very significant in this conversation and in the history of boxing. So I'll probably get to my 4th greatest fighter, probably my 5th and 6th, and then I'm going to go directly to my 10th, and I'll go back down to my 7th, 8th, and 9th if I choose to do so. So look out for my next video. I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff Cities. All great fights, all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. And I am going down the list of my top 10 greatest fighters in boxing history. Thanks for listening. Be well.